Thanks, everybody. I just wanted to respond. The Austin Police Department had started to receive requests from the media and from the public about things that they were seeing online that were found to be threatening to our students in the school districts and to the public in general. The Austin Regional Intelligence Center really has been working on this issue for a while. It has really come to the forefront after the shooting that the unfortunate events that happened in Oregon last week. And because of those, we've really seen an explosion that has happened online with people posting inflammatory comments, comments that can be found to be threatening, and that really have, particularly for the parents of small children and for the kids that are in college, it's become very alarming, and so we wanted to just put out some information regarding what it is that the police department's doing about this, what we're seeing, and really try to assure the public about what is the real threat here. Unfortunately, a lot of these threats are coming in through anonymous websites and anonymous sources, making it very difficult for us to be able to identify who did this and bring that person to justice. There are several statutes within the Texas law and within federal law with regards to causing alarm or stating a threat that causes a reaction by some type of a law enforcement agency. And some of those are quite serious felony offenses, and we're working towards resolution on a couple of the cases and putting people in jail for that. What I want to assure everybody is that every single threat that the Austin Police Department becomes aware of, and it isn't just really about the Austin Police Department, through the Austin Regional Intelligence Center and all the law enforcement agencies that are here in Central Texas, we're collating that data. We are then looking to find out who did it and bring that person very quickly to justice. We do not wait on these. We cannot wait on these. It is too important, and we see this happening every day across the country with school campus violence and violence against law enforcement and the community. When we become aware of these threats, we will run them to ground as quickly as we possibly can. A lot of times we don't have a whole lot of information to work with, and even less that we can put out to the public to help reassure them of what it is that we're doing. Some of the recent threats, and one that I saw that came out in the media, had to do with a school campus threat. It was very generic. We saw the same threat going across the country, the exact same wording. All they did was replace the name of the city. And I think that the media has very aptly picked up on that and has communicated that. That's one of the cases that we're working on, and we have a couple of others. I can't go, because they are open investigations, I can't go too much into the details of what they are, but what the message that I really want to get out is that if we discover, and in at least one case we already have identified a suspect, who it is that's making these postings, they will be held accountable and charges will be filed. I think the question was raised a little bit about how do we know whether a threat is credible, and that's a very complicated question. I think that there are a lot of factors that go into that, including if we are able to identify, is the person who is posting this local. Sometimes we can do that very quickly, and sometimes it's a process, and many times we find out that they are not local. And that will reduce the credibility of that threat, because they don't really have the means, if they're across the country somewhere, to commit whatever crime it is that they're threatening to commit. Some of the threats that we're seeing are very vague. It sounds threatening, but there isn't necessarily a direct threat there. That also can complicate our investigations and complicate our ability to file charges on these cases. So what I want more than anything is for people to know and to understand that the Austin Police Department and the Austin Regional Intelligence Center are working on finding out who it is that is making these kind of online postings, these online threats, and bringing them to justice as quickly as possible. Any questions?
How important is it how important is that timeline to get that credibility verified or nullified?
It's incredibly important from two different standpoints. First, how quickly are we discovering the online posting? Because many times, and to their credit, many of these websites are policing themselves, and when they discover some type of a threat that's posted on there, they will remove it themselves. So that's good, because it doesn't allow whoever the perpetrator is to put their things out there and try and cause the kind of reaction that they're looking for. But it's also problematic for us in the sense that it makes it, once that posting has been removed, then we can't necessarily look at it any longer. Yeah, so it's a pretty complicated problem.
Tim, you couldn't get into the investigation too much, but just to kind of give an idea of how difficult sometimes these things are, can you give a couple different steps that, in terms of trying to figure out who's made a posting, if they're posting from another country or another part of the country?
So we work pretty closely with our federal partners on this, particularly the FBI has a cyber task force and the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Depending on what kind of threat is being made, if it looks like it could be related to some kind of terrorist activity, then they are, they're going to be the lead agency, and we will support. Primarily, the types of threats that we are seeing right now are school campus threats, and I want to assure everybody, I don't want everybody to get too, like we have a lot of them, there have been a handful, and particularly threats against law enforcement. And I think part of what is driving it is the campus carry conversation that is occurring right now in Central Texas and across Texas, as well as the kind of things that we are seeing from the law enforcement perspective across the country with anti-police sentiment. And so we will see people, and people need to understand that there are consequences to actions. If they post something, and there's a fine line between free speech, which we fully support, and causing a reaction or making a threat to somebody else that will cause some kind of reaction on their part. So we analyze each one of those that is brought to our attention to see, does it cross that line? And if it does, well, then we need to take action to mitigate it.
What should people do if they see a post online or on social media, making a direct threat towards a campus or something like that?
Well, particularly if it's a direct threat, they need to call 911 and let us know about it. We cannot wait for a email or something else to come in. If they're able to preserve it with a screenshot, if they're looking on their mobile device or if they're on their computer, great. I would say do that, and then call 911 and let them know what you've got, and we will begin that investigative process. But the reaction cannot wait until, well, I'll wait until I get home or something like that. It needs to be pretty quick, because it takes us a while to start that investigative process, and meantime we don't know whoever it is posting, what are they doing.
Is the public exacerbating the problem by sharing these posts and forwarding them around?
Well, I don't know if exacerbating is the right word. If I put myself in their place, and I am in their place because I have a child in school, I want to know that information, and I'm sure they want to know that information, and they're sharing it with one another, and it's causing great alarm. But a lot of times we're able to lower the credibility on those threats very quickly, and the people that are sharing these posts don't know that. So there may be, in fact, a very low threshold or a very low threat that is actually attached to whatever it is they're looking at, and they just don't know that. So I think I wouldn't say don't share it. I just think that we need to be sharing it in, a very thoughtful way and make sure that people aren't getting spun out of hole unnecessarily.
What prompted you and other agencies, mainly I think the universities in the region, posted on Twitter yesterday to dispel that threat? What prompted that? I guess you've got this dichotomy of you don't want to be alarmist, but you also don't want to let things fester.
Right. So when we start, and I know that, we work very closely with the public information offices for the school districts, and when we start to see a threat that is going viral, we want to get on top of that. And if we can determine like I said, very quickly that it is a low credible threat, then we want to get that information out to put people at ease. It doesn't mean that, you should just be completely oblivious. I think in the society that we live in today, that people always need to have awareness. But it doesn't mean that you need to go around in some kind of ultra heightened state of panic all the time. I think that we just need to be aware of our surroundings and to always have a plan for what we're going to do if we're confronted with that type of a situation, whether that be a school campus shooter or, for law enforcement, the threats that are going around. We train our officers on how to maintain situational awareness and to neutralize a threat if they have to.
Do you know why there's no specific "it is safe to go to school" message being sent out? I feel like people are confused and maybe a little uneasy for that reason. Do you know why that is?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think that it's safe to go to school. I have my child in school today. Having said that, could there be a lone wolf actor out there who has bad intent? I think that's a possibility. So we work with our school district police department partners. We work with our other area law enforcement agencies to mitigate those kind of threats when we become aware of them. And they just have to be on guard whenever the school is open and whenever the kids are in school. I mean, they just have to have that awareness and be ready for it.
Are you guys in contact with the Philadelphia Police Department, which had a very similar threat posted to a website? Are you guys in contact with any other police departments that dealt with very similar threats like this?
Yes. So through the Austin Regional Intelligence Center and through the Fusion Center network, we are able to share information across the network on threats that we are seeing. So as Austin starts to develop some information that might be useful to Philadelphia, we will share that information. And that's one of the great things actually about the National Network of Fusion Centers.
Last question.
Just again, in terms of putting everything into perspective, for people who might hope that an anonymous post, whoever did this, would be quickly found and dealt with, and the difficulty there, how has the investigation progressed into the UT bombing 3 years ago?
Well, yeah, I think that's a question really for UT. I couldn't tell you since we're not the investigating agency. I can tell you that I cannot go into what our investigative methods are, but I will say that we have, number one, we have cyber capabilities here within the department, both within APD itself and within the Austin Regional Intelligence Center. We have strong relationships with FBI and their cyber task force, and there are protocols and abilities in place to identify who people are pretty quickly. So, I think that, just on an ongoing basis, we're going to continue to get better at that, and that people should really think about if they are making posts and they're trying to exercise their free speech rights, that's fine. It just cannot be threatening in nature. Thank you all very much.
Can we get your name and how you spell it?
Sure, Joseph, Joseph, Chacon, Chacon, and I'm a commander with Austin Police in the Intelligence Division. Thank you.